everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to look at a book called The Coming of the Lord by Gerald N. Lund. This was written or published in 1971, and it has to do with the second coming. Now, this shouldn't be confused with this book right here, at least I don't think, The Second Coming of the Lord. I don't know if this is like an updated version of what we're looking at here, but I want to read a little bit out of this that has to do with Salt Lake City not being the center place, not being the permanent headquarters of the church, because he writes about that in his book, and that's something that we've been kind of wondering about on the channel. I've always felt that it is Missouri, but there has been some doubt that's been introduced, and from everything that I've been able to tell up to now, Missouri is still supposed to be the center place, specifically Jackson County, Independence, Missouri. Right. It's said time and time again, well, here's just another source, and I just want to see what I haven't read it yet. I've kind of skimmed through it, but I want to see what he has to say. So who is Gerald N. Lund? Notably, the only thing that we really need to know here is that he was in the Second Quorum of the 70 from 2002 to 2008. And that's actually the same time. That's the range of time in which I served my mission from 2004 to 2006. And he came to Barcelona and he gave a talk at one of our zone. Well, it wasn't a zone conference. It was like I can't even remember. I think it was his own conference, actually. I don't know. But he came and talked, so that was kind of neat. So he was a general authority. He has a bachelor's of arts and master's degree in sociology from BYU. He served for 35 years in the church educational system. He's a prolific author. Okay, so that's who he is. Okay, so 1971, remember that date, because there is one thing that I have to critique that I saw, but we're going to go to page 99 as soon as I find it. Here it is. Chapter 7, Faces Eastward, a Holy City. I'll zoom in for anyone that wants to follow along. Okay, a holy city. Many years before Christ, one of the great prophets to the nation of the Jaredites foresaw much of the destiny of the land on which this people dwelt. He saw the days of Christ and far beyond them into our own dispensation. Moroni, the final scribe for the Book of Mormon, records the words of the prophet Ether and his startling prediction concerning a city to be built upon this land. That city was to be called the New Jerusalem. It is not hard to imagine the excitement such a prophecy caused among the early members of the church as they read this part of the Book of Mormon. John the Revelator had also spoken of the New Jerusalem, but no one had ever dared suppose that it would be built here in America. The saints became eager to know of its location so that they might have a part in the building of this great city. In response to their questions and to his own, Joseph Smith asked the Lord for revelation that they might know where this remarkable city was to be built. In September 1830, the Lord made it clear that no one knew yet where the city, also called the City of Zion, was to be located. But finally, in July 1831, the Lord revealed that the center place for the City of Zion was in the small town of Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. Now, we've looked at these dates before, and I find it interesting that only a year after the church is organized, this is revealed. The church is organized, a year later, the center place is revealed. And even though we haven't been successful at making that the headquarters or like building up the literal city of Zion, it was revealed all the way back then. Let's go to Google Earth really quick. I like to use Google Earth just for anyone that might be new. If you're new to the church, you're not a member of the church. So Independence, Missouri, it's right here in the western part of the state where Kansas City is. I'm in Kansas. It's not too far away. well, it's like, I think it's like 3.5 hours if I remember right from where I'm at. So here's the Kansas City metro area. Like half of it is actually in Kansas. Um, well, probably a little bit less than half, and then more than half is over here in Missouri. Independence is just east, like directly east of Kansas City proper. Okay, you zoom in. And I guess this is probably the city center for Independence, downtown Independence. Just to the west of that, you have these different locations right here. This one owned by the Community of Christ, this one owned by the Community of Christ, formerly known as the RLDS Church or the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have their temple, they have their basically a conference center right here. The Church of Christ Temple Lot is right here. They're extremely tiny little. I think there's only like 10,000 of them if I remember right. We did a video on these different groups, and I think they're only like 10, maybe 20,000 of these, but they're the ones that own the original spot of the first temple of the 24 temple complex. And then we own, from what I can tell, from my research, I think we own this land right here, right there. We've explored how the Independence Visitor Center was built to the same specifications as the first temple that was revealed to Joseph Smith. And they built it that way so that it could be part of the 24 temple complex in the future. So essentially, it's a temple. It's a temple that hasn't been made into a temple yet. I've also used Photoshop of this. I used Photoshop to look at this area, and if you were to copy this and make a grid of, what was it? Anyway, if you were to do a grid, you would be able to fit 24 temples of this size within this land that the church already owns, if the Lord was to reveal to go ahead and do it here instead. I don't know if that'll happen, but okay, so let's go back here. Although the prophet Joseph Smith and many of the saints were by that time settled in Kirtland, Ohio, many other members of the church earnestly desired to live in the city so long promised by the Lord, and as a consequence, move their families to Zion. So let's go back to Google Earth. If you don't know where Kirtland is, so here's Kansas City. Kansas City is basically the big city of New Jerusalem. The big city for Kirtland, Ohio, is Cleveland. Kirtland isn't really a suburb. It seems to be kind of like out in the country. I just saw it right there. Just this tiny little area here. So it's on to the northeast of Cleveland. So we're looking at the Cleveland and the Kansas City areas. Okay. So they were all the way over there, and they wanted to come all the way over here, which back in those days, I mean, it's still far right now, but back in those days, traveling by foot, that is quite the distance, but they wanted to do it. So they did. Okay. But their hopes of living in the holy city of Zion were frustrated, for history proved that the saints were not yet ready to establish the new Jerusalem. They were driven from Jackson County and later from Missouri altogether. After all of the divine promises that had been made concerning the great destiny of this special city, the expulsion of the saints must have caused much consternation. However, the Lord made it clear that no change in location had been made, but only that the redemption of Zion would have to wait for a season. Evidently, until he had a people worthy to build and possess a city of such special nature. So that's interesting. And I'm not trying to be prideful or anything like that, but we've talked about a number of times on the channel how there does seem to be a movement of people to the Midwest. There's a number of you that have moved from different places in the West, and now you're living here in the Midwest. We have people in Ohio. Joe Signs, the guy that donated the microphone to me, he lives in Iowa. I think there was somebody else as well. It was, oh, who was it? It was what? Yeah, it was Young Mothers in Christ. She lives here. She moved because she got married to someone from here, but still, she came here. I know some over here in Missouri that moved from Utah and other places. Arkansas, we got Teresa Washington and her husband that moved here. She's originally from California. Anyway, the point is, I've noticed there's an abundance of anecdotal stories of people moving to the Midwest. I think some of that is because of housing prices that have skyrocketed anywhere west of Kansas, basically, even Montana. I'm not so sure about New Mexico. I didn't really look there, but everywhere over here, it's all expensive. So I think that's probably helping things. So I really do think, my personal opinion, just based on my observations, I really do think that there's a movement, there's a migration that's happening. And I doubt that, I believe that it's probably the doing of the Lord, bringing people to this area. Who knows? I've talked about how maybe the Missouri is becoming the new Utah and Kansas is the new Idaho. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Salt Lake City, not the permanent headquarters. Okay, this is the section that caught my attention. In the 13 decades that have followed the abandonment of the land designated by the Lord as the land of Zion, the church moved west, colonized hundreds of cities in the western half of the North American continent, and grew into a worldwide organization with a membership of 3 million. Well, that's back in 1971. Now we're approaching 17 million as of today. From the first hot day when the pioneers entered the valley of the Great Salt Lake to the present, when thousands of chapels, seminaries, temples, welfare farms, and other church properties dot the Intermountain West, Salt Lake City has been the headquarters of the Latter-day Saints. The vast global organization, which at the end of 1970 included some 537 stakes, 4,800 wards and branches, and 93 missions, has all been administered from this site laid out by Brigham Young a few days after arriving in Salt Lake Valley. The amount of capital investment the church has in the West is enough to stagger the mind. Even more impressive is the realization of the tremendous cost and human toil and sacrifice it has taken to move the church from the barren existence of 1847 to its present stature. It is inconceivable that after so much investment of time, labor, and money that the church should ever want to leave its headquarters. And yet, during the 130 years that the church has been exiled from the lands of Jackson County, Missouri, the saints have ever been taught that Jackson County, not Utah, is their final permanent headquarters. Elder George Q. Cannon explained that this longing for Zion is not due to a dissatisfaction with the lands in which the saints presently find themselves, for Utah and its environs have been a happy home for the saints. And I would add other places too: Idaho, Arizona, California, Vegas, all over. Quote, "We do not wish to leave this land because it is not fertile or because it is not a favored land. We appreciate the home that God has given us here, so fruitful in blessings to the saints, but we look forward to that land with indescribable feelings because it is a place where God said his city shall be built." Orson F. Whitney stated the case in the most explicit terms. Quote, "Will our mission end here in Utah? Is the state of Utah the proper monument of the Mormon people? No, the monument to Mormonism will stand in Jackson County, Missouri. There the great city will be built. There Zion will arise and shine. Quote, the joy of the whole earth. And there the people will come to his temple in his own time when his people have made the required preparation." And again, I keep bringing this up, but I really think that this time is really close. And I think that based on many things, but specifically based off of this one talk, Sisters in Christ, Sisters in Zion by by President Eyring, where he pretty explicitly tells this generation of women, those that are now grandmothers and all the ones that are younger than them, that they will create this society. And he even talks about New Jerusalem by name. And then he talks about Enoch and the city of Enoch. So I think it's now. I think the time is now. And when I say now, I mean within the next, who knows, the next couple decades, maybe shorter. Okay, so in this 3-volume work, Doctrines of Salvation, okay, there it is right there. This is what we've been reading out of the Doctrines of Salvation. So I guess there are only 3 volumes. That's something that I wondered in a previous video. In his 3-volume work, Doctrines of Salvation, President Joseph Fielding Smith also clearly stated the belief of the church that Missouri is to be the location of the city of Zion. Quote, "We accept the fact that the center place where the city New Jerusalem is to be built is in Jackson County, Missouri. It was never the intention to substitute Utah or any other place for Jackson County. But we do hold that Zion, when reference is made to the land, is as broad as America, both north and south. All of it is Zion." So it's interesting because you don't typically think of continents as cities. So there's different ways, I think, to think about this. Okay. So when we're talking about Jackson County, that is the center place. It's the center stake of Zion. And I do think it is actually going to be an actual city, New Jerusalem, right? A New Jerusalem that corresponds with Old Jerusalem in Israel. And then there's Zion as a people, and you have Zion across the entire earth. We're called to gather to the stakes of Zion, wherever you live. You go to your local stake, and that's where you're supposed to gather. And then there's this statement talking about Zion as North and South America, as if that's associated with the New Jerusalem that will be here. So I guess there's different ways of thinking about it. So as a people, Zion has been around since, the church has been restored, and they're trying to help us become more and more a Zion people. We've looked at the spreadsheet, and that is all the talk is becoming a Zion people of one heart, one mind, pure of heart. All those different phrases. All those different phrases have been said frequently within the last few years. So it feels like now is the time that they're really trying to do this, as though this is the final phase, the preparation for actually doing these things. Okay, so let's go back. All right. President Lorenzo Snow cautioned the Saints against feeling that the return to Jackson County was so close that they should not try and build up the area in which they were presently living. But he made it clear that the day was coming when the worthy members of the church would return to build the city there. Quote, "The time is speedily coming. We do not want to talk very much, though, about going to Jackson County, Missouri, because through our weakness, we would not care anything about building houses and making ourselves comfortable here. I know when we first started a colony in Brigham City, the people generally thought it was nonsense, perfectly useless to plant peach trees, currant bushes, and the like, because we were going to Jackson County so speedily. And and it was the utmost effort that we were enabled to discourage them of this idea. We're not going tomorrow, nor the next day, this week or next week, but we are going, and there are many hundreds and hundreds within the sound of my voice that will live to go back to Jackson County and build up a holy temple to the Lord our God." Okay, now hold on. When did he live? Lorenzo Snow. He died in 1901. So it doesn't seem that that's the case, that because he said hundreds and hundreds within the sound of my voice that will live and go back to Jackson County and build a holy temple too. So I don't want to say that he's wrong. I don't know if like maybe hundreds did move back to Missouri, but anyway. President Brigham Young spoke of a vision he had received before the saints were driven from Missouri. In the vision, he saw the members of the church scattered in every direction, but he saw them returning to Jackson County from the west. Said he, quote, "When this people return to the center stake of Zion, they will go from the west." On another occasion, President Young said, quote, "Suppose we are ready for it and a great temple is built at the central point in Jackson County. Gentlemen, don't be startled, for if we don't go back there, our sons and daughters will, and a great temple will be built upon that consecrated spot, and a great many more besides that." Now, this is kind of a loaded thing because, okay, well, I was just talking about all the different people that I know of, both on YouTube and in real life. Within my own ward, there's a couple other couples that are from the Western U.S. that are here now. One from Idaho, the other couple is from Utah. They're younger couples, like, well, I guess I can't call myself young anymore. I'm becoming middle-aged. But it does seem, I don't hear so many stories about people moving from the east to Missouri. There was one girl that was in Mississippi. She left a comment, and she's moving to Wichita soon. But aside from that, all other stories that I've heard, they've all been people moving from the west. And even my friend Troy Abels from the Last Dispensation channel, we talk quite a bit, and he's thinking about moving from California. He's kind of near Fresno, roughly. He's thinking about moving over here. So I think I really, really do think that it's happening. If you are someone that fits this category, it doesn't matter where you moved from. If you've moved from outside of the Midwest, and now you live in the Midwest, put it in the comments below where you moved from, why, and where you live now, if you don't mind. You don't have to get too personal, but it'd be interesting to see how many. So I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's happening right now. Brigham Young's prophecy. Did he say that it was a dream? Let's see. A vision he had. So he had a vision of people moving from the west back here. Interesting. And then he was talking about the Great Temple. Now, this is something I've never really been able to fully understand. So suppose that we were to actually, if everything just fell into place, and if we were to build up the city of Zion again, sorry, I don't know if like it's okay. Here it is. Is the plan still excuse me, is the plan still to have a 24 temple complex? Because Brigham Young and others have talked about the Great Temple, which it seems, I can't tell if that temple is simply the first one that was going to be built, that the cornerstones were laid for, but it itself was supposed to be part of the 24 temple complex. And all the temples, they're like the same size and everything. So I don't know if that's what he's referring to, or I don't know if he's referring to yet another temple that would be built that would be bigger than the others. I don't know. Anyway, Orson Pratt also spoke at some length on our future destiny. Is God limited to this little narrow spot called the Great Basin of North America? Why, no. It is only for the present, for the time being, that we dwell here. Where will we dwell in the future? What is our future destiny? Is it not on? It is not on the Sandwich Islands. It is not in New Zealand. It is not in Australia. It is not in any of the islands of the sea. But I will tell you the future destiny of this people in a very few words. Not many years hence, I do not say the number of years, you will look forth to the western counties of the state of Missouri and the eastern counties of the state of Kansas. Oh, yeah. And in all that region roundabout, you will see a thickly populated country inhabited by a peaceful people, having their orchards, their fruit trees. I'm growing some fruit trees right now as we speak. Their fields of grain, their beautiful houses and shade trees, their cities and towns and villages. And you may ask, who are all these people? And the answer will be Latter-day Saints. All right, the next section, the center place. Place is in quotations. The center place of Zion. The reader may have noticed that the site for the city of Zion, or the New Jerusalem, is variously referred to by some church authorities as the, quote, the center stake of Zion, and by others as the center place of Zion. The former term was more often used by early members of the church, and as elders Smith and Sodal explain, it is not as accurate as the latter. Okay, so center place is more accurate than center stake. In a footnote to a quotation from Brigham Young, wherein he calls it the center stake of Zion, they say, it has become customary. Sorry. It has become customary to speak of the center stake of Zion. It might therefore be well to remember that no stake was ever organized in Jackson County. Following the figure given by Isaiah chapter 33, verse 20, and 54, verse 2, we cannot speak of a center stake of Zion. The term stake of Zion was first used in a revelation given in November 1831. Again, just a year after the church was organized, in section 68. It is a comparison to the stakes which bind a tent. Isaiah says, "Look upon Zion, the city of our solemnities. Thine eyes shall see Jerusalem, a quiet habitation, a tabernacle that shall not be taken down. Not one of the stakes thereof shall ever be removed, neither shall any of the cords thereof be broken." End quote. Again, quote, "Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitations. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes." Zion is the tent, and how can the tent be a stake? Oh, okay, see? It is not a serious error, but the difference is worth noting, since both phrases will be found in statements of various church leaders in this and following chapters. Okay, page 104, not all shall return. But, says one, why then does the church continue to build up the areas around Utah if we're just going to desert them? The answer to that question is twofold. First, and most obvious, the call to return to Jackson County has not been given to the church as yet. Until it is, the church is expected to build Zion in the hearts of its people wherever they are located. Okay, see, so in a sense, Zion is being built right now in the hearts of the people where they are located. Okay. And I feel like this is a key concept. I feel like it's a key concept, just because there are people that are expecting that the literal city has to be built before Christ comes. And it is going to be built, but I wonder if it's going to be after the second coming. The reason why I say that is because it's being built in the hearts of the people right now. If he was to return to a temple, so if he has to go to the temple in New Jerusalem, they could convert the Independence Visitor Center at any time into a temple. There's also the Kansas City, Kansas temple. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but it's over here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri, LDS temple. No, it's freezed up. For some reason, it always freezes up when I use Google Earth. It's not searching it. Whatever. So you also have that temple that's in the Kansas City area. So anyway, I'm just pointing out that I think there's lots of different ways that things can happen, and sometimes they won't happen the way that we think they will. Okay, this cannot be done if further growth and development of the church was curtailed in anxious anticipation of the call to Missouri. No one yet knows exactly when the call will come. Until it does come, the church will continue to build Zion and the kingdom of God in the location in which they find themselves. For only in this way will they be prepared to build up the center place of Zion. Now, when it comes to a call, if I were to imagine what that would look like, I would think that it would simply be an announcement that the church is moving its headquarters to Independence, Missouri. And then whoever wants to go will go. And I think people are already moving that way. I've already said that a number of times in this video. But I doubt that the church would announce like, okay, everybody who's able to, please go to Missouri. I think that it could be just something as simple as we are now, the time has now come and the church has purchased land, or it plans to develop this land right here into the new church headquarters. Something like that. Could be wrong. I don't know. Okay. However, that still leaves a second and more important reason. The investment in time, energy, and money, which the church and its members have made in the building up of the Western Empire, is not simply to be abandoned. When one considers the massive expenditures which have recently gone into the new temples in Utah, the new church office building, the granite vaults in Little Cottonwood Canyon, the new visitor center. Well, we just tore that down, Elder Lund, but we're building a new one, and many other new buildings and programs inaugurated by the leaders of the church. It would indeed seem tragic to abandon the present headquarters of the church. Such will not be the case, for the prophets have amply testified that although the majority of the church will move to Missouri, that in no way implies that every member will. Just a few years after coming to Utah, President Brigham Young said, quote, "Remarks have been made as to our staying here in the Rockies. I will tell you how long we shall stay here. If we live our religion, we shall stay here in these mountains forever and forever, worlds without end, and a portion of the priesthood will go and redeem and build up the center stake of Zion." Shortly before his death, President Young put it even more clearly. As we go back to, are we going back to Jackson County? Yes. When? As soon as the way opens up. Are we all going? Oh no, of course not. The country is not large enough to hold our present numbers. When we do return there, will there be any less remaining in these mountains than we number today? No, there may be 100 then for every single one that there is now. Wait, what? Okay. When we do return there, will there be any less remaining in these mountains than we number today? No, there may be 100 than for every single one that there is now. It is folly in men to suppose that we're going to break up these our hard-earned homes to make others in a new country. Is he saying like for like one for every 100 will go back? Is that what? Can someone explain that to me? We intend to hold our own here and also penetrate the north and the south, the east and the west. There's there to make others and to raise the ensign of truth. In his conference address to the church in 1900 concerning the return to Zion, President Lorenzo Snow described it as a large portion who would return. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my throat. I think it's allergies. Now, the time is fast approaching when a large portion of the people that I am now addressing will go back to Jackson County. A large portion of the Latter-day Saints that now dwell in these valleys will go back to Jackson County to build a holy city to the Lord, as was decreed by Jehovah and revealed through Joseph Smith. So, again, if this is true, maybe a lot of that has already happened. I don't know how many people may have moved back to Missouri after he said that, you know. If you're from Missouri, if you're like in this Kansas City area, let me know. Did your grandparents or parents, did they move here sometime after Lorenzo Snow said that in 1900? Because maybe the seeds have already been planted. Maybe families have already come to this area. There's enough people here right now to where they have a temple. They have the Kansas City temple, and it's a regular sized temple. Let me pull it up here. Kansas City LDS temple. I want to look at I want to do the street view if possible. There it is. And it doesn't look like it's a very small temple. It looks like it's a full-size temple. It's interesting because it's a two-spired temple, so it resembles the Salt Lake Temple in a sense. You have the one spire that's higher than the other. And then just like the Salt Lake Temple, it has, not on these like first two floors, but up here, it has the Roman arch type windows, which is similar to the Salt Lake Temple. Although the Salt Lake Temple has this shape for all the windows all around. Let's go over here. So I'm just saying it's interesting that it somewhat resembles the Salt Lake Temple but it only has like the two spires rather than like the three on each side. This looks like a nice area. Nice new homes. This looks nice. Okay. So anyway, let me know if your family has moved to Missouri. I'd like to know. Orson Pratt made it evident that it was his belief that some would remain in the areas already organized and built up by the church. Quote, "We expect that these mountains will not be the residences of all the Latter-day Saints. We expect that the great majority of the people will immigrate." All of the efforts of building the great sacrifices that have been made down through the years are not simply to be left behind. As Zion expands to encompass all of North and South America, the great building effort of generations of saints will be put to valuable use. However, the work of the Lord in his kingdom will be headquartered in the city of Zion, which will be built in Jackson County, Missouri. It is for this reason that the church still looks to the east. Okay, I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. So we read pages 99 to 106. You can find this on archive.org. What you need to do is set up a free account, and it has from what I can tell, it has all sorts of church books on there, including Millennial Messiah, this book, Coming of the Lord. It has the doctrines of salvation. So, and who knows what else is on there. Now, this was originally, no, okay, never mind. Okay. So yeah, let me know what you think about all this. What is your opinion? Have you moved to the Midwest? Did your family move here a while ago? How long have you been here? And what do you think how do you think things are going to unfold? Do you think that we're getting close to that time when some kind of announcement might take place where the church headquarters is moved? I would expect, though, here's the thing. If the church headquarters was moved, I would think that there'd be a lot of talk of it ahead of time before the announcement. Well, no, maybe not, because maybe they would make the announcement first, and then after that they would go through the phase of like choosing the location or coordinating with the city or all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's gonna be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.